Hi everyone, sorry about the delay, but I think the overall match was delayed as well, which led to a general lateness to everything we've started. So I can see Munchie is there. We're going to be able to, Amarish Sirius is there as well. The reality is these shows are dependent on the finish of the match, and unfortunately we had that delay there, so we do apologise. I've got Tabash's Sen here. How are you, Tabash's?
Hi Norman, good to see you.
Good to see you. No, we only saw each other very recently. The reality is that we have had an amazing match here between these two sides, the Punjab Kings and the Rajasthan Royals. I think we both had predicted that they would perhaps not finish so highly in the top 8, and there would be some concerns. They certainly did provide very good batting ability today, especially the likes of Samson, and even though his team was defeated, and the likes of Rahul and even Gayle. It was certainly somewhat of a batting paradise today. But we had a match on that pitch, did we not, only a few games ago, which involved two teams that didn't get over 200, which intrigues me. What do you think? Why do you think the reason for that is, Tobias? Is why have we seen two sides get over 200 in this match? And
I think the bowling. I think the bowling, both the bowling attacks didn't look like they're going to ripping through the batting lineup, so as to say they looked a bit rusty, obviously, and barring the exception of these two young bowlers in both the sides, Arshdeep Singh and Chetan Shakaria, none of the bowlers looked to be impressive. They went in for a lot of runs, especially the likes of Chris Morris, who we all know has been the most expensive cricketer in this IPL. Rajasthan Royals spent around 16.25 crore to get his service, but then he failed to deliver. He almost went in for, I think, more than 40 runs, if I'm not wrong, 4 overs, 41 runs and 2 wickets, which is very, very expensive. And so as well as Mustafizur Rahman, who went in for 4 overs, 45 runs. So both these foreigners accounted for almost 86 runs in those 8 overs, which is more than 11 runs. And I think that was the difference why Rajasthan ended up on the losing side. But then all credit to Sanju Samson, the way he batted. Obviously, he led from the front. When you have Ben Stokes getting dismissed for a small total. In fact, in the first over, Ben Stokes got dismissed, and then the way Sanju Samson and the little bits and pieces from Riyan Parag and also the likes of Josh Buttler, I think. But then, as you have been saying, ever since the IPL started, you don't see both these sides making it to the playoffs, which I do agree with you to some extent. I don't see these sides making it because they lack the experience in the middle order, and also their bowling attack is the weak link. Not so much so with their batting, because both these trained teams have a very, very top heavy batting lineup, both the teams. In fact, Rahul also played a wonderful knock today. So all in all, I would say it was a very entertaining match. We have to accept that it was a very, very entertaining match.
Oh, there's no doubt. We'll see the true reflection of these two teams when they play against Delhi Capitals, Mumbai Indians, and the KKRs of this world. Gareth Banker saying that it was the catching that both dropped easy catches. Look, absolutely. And look, I know the Bastards, you and I and a number of other commentators have been saying the word rusty, etc., the quarantine, or what have you. But I've got to maintain the professional nature of this tournament should not be underplayed. And dropping of catches, rusty bowling performances, or somewhat average batting performances is, in my opinion, inexcusable. I must be honest with you. I think the fact that this is a flagship tournament in the world of cricket, certainly in India, I would argue the IPL is the most watched tournament in the world. Perhaps the recent Australian series may have differed a little bit, but the reality is this is one of the most watched and most supported. The social media platforms of all these teams is through the roof. It probably outdoes the BCCI in their coverage. And I think they expect the players to perform from ball one. And quite frankly, if I'm paying them as much money as I am, I'm expecting them to play well from ball one as well. I think Chris Morris is. I know it's early, but I think he's not showing his value of this game. Is not. If he was as good a player as he made it, he should have batted earlier. Honestly, I mean, if that's his worth as an all-rounder, not just a bowler, the Australian bowlers. I'm going to be very openly honest here. I think that Richardson is overrated at this point of his career. He hasn't proven himself sufficiently, and I think that Meredith is also in that same boat. There's high hopes on them. Their performances in the BBL have been admirable, but it's way too early to be. They're nowhere near their best, and I think that both these sides, if I'm being brutally honest, are actually showing signs of what is typical of the two teams which are lower ranked in the competition, paying overs for their players and expecting too much out of them. It's a traditional sign for any good side, or sorry, any side, when they overpay their players and they have high expectations, it puts undue pressure on them. And mark my words for this tournament, I think that pressure is going to show, and hopefully not through injury, so through performance.
But you need to give them a chance, I would say, because it was their first match. Both Chai Richardson and Riley Meredith. It was their first. I would say, if I'm not wrong, it was their first experience bowling in India, on Indian conditions and Indian pitches. So I think they need to be given a go, at least 3-4 matches before we make a conclusion or judge them. But they are too good a bowlers because they have performed in the BBL, and that's the reason they have been brought in by the Rajasthan Royal side. So let's give them a fair bit of opportunity before we make an judgment.
My expectation still maintains though. I grant what you're saying, but I'm hoping they do perform better for their sakes. But there's going to be a lot of undue pressure on them. There's no doubt about it. And you hit the nail on the head. The fact that they haven't had experience in India bewilders me somewhat. Maybe in their second season they would warrant this sort of money, but not the first. Okay, Zara Tara, would you say that there is an Aussie tax and pricing for IPL players? Shows the greatness of Australian teams across the years. An Aussie tax in pricing. Well, that maybe I like the way that almost appears that perhaps some international players do have an extra tag on them, or perhaps their management are very good. Munchie saying top hat to Barshas. Now, Munchie, I mean, are you saying you're a Chelsea supporter? Obviously, you are. Milan, Pandya has been way more impactful in the white ball format than Stokes looking at the last 4 years. I would agree. Stokes certainly has the capability of being in that league. But Pandya certainly has shown that. I would tend to agree. Perhaps Ben Stokes opening the batting today. Perhaps it should have been Josh Buttler. I think we spoke about that a little bit earlier in the session. Either they both opened together and Stokes bats at 2 and Buttler bats as an opener. Why? Because Buttler has had a lot of experience opening. Ben Stokes has said that he wanted to, but then they should have opened together. I think there's a lot of discussion on Rajasthan Royals. They need to get that sorted. They really haven't got that sorted.
But then if you send Buttler in at number 4, that middle order looks very inexperienced for me.
You mean Stokes at number 4?
Buttler should open. Maybe Stokes should bat in at number 4. But I don't think the management would. They would, because Stokes had made it very clear that he would like to open. That was the case. That was the reason he was sent in to open. But then he had a great day. He dropped a catch. He did take a splendid catch. But then Mohammad Shami, he was coming back after a long layoff, and he did the trick. I think Stokes perhaps played the shot too early. But then Stokes is too good a player to make a comeback in the side, and the way Rajasthan chased it, the way Rajasthan almost chased it successfully. I think this batting lineup showed a lot of promise. Obviously, with Stokes not scoring runs, but without Stokes scoring, at least they almost chased the target successfully. So that is the biggest positive that the Rajasthan Royals will take from this loss.
Absolutely. Look, I don't want to appear like I'm judging too early. It's not that way at all. But we've got a very good point here. Gareth Banker said the BBL performance is overrated. You know what? I agree with him. I think the BBL is not necessarily a platform to say whether a player's in good form or not. Why? Because if they haven't played in India, that immediately takes back that whole performance into perspective. Let's see how Meredith and Richardson perform. Sharmi today, to me, showed exactly his experience. Despite having come back from an injury, you have to argue, Tobias, that he came back like he would fit on his glove, don't you think? Sharmi, considering all, I did not expect him to bowl as well as he did.
Absolutely. I mean, it showed that he had a lot of fire in his belly. He was just raring to go. He missed out ever since that Adelaide Test match. He was injured. He had to fly back to India. He missed the England series. So he was always willing to go, and that showed that he was raring to go. And we also, I mean, he bowled his heart out, I would say. He bowled his heart out. To me, I think he was an exceptional bowler in that Punjab Kings lineup, along with Arshdeep Singh.
Very much so. I still maintain both bowling attacks are not going to be sufficient to do well in this competition. Mohammad Shami is very, very significant for his side. But and in terms of the way that he bowled, certainly I would argue that Punjab have certainly got a better opportunity. Punjab will finish higher. They'll probably be in the 5th, maybe 6th spot. Rajasthan Royals, they really need to get their act together. I know they got a competitive score. I know all that, but I just don't think they've quite got it. I just think if they don't get things going their way, some of these teams will eat them for breakfast. I'm predicting them to go quite low in the comp. I'm not saying they're not a good side. They're just not. They're not there yet, and I think it's well documented. Okay, and Marnie John says batted with a bit less speed in the run rate, which cost them a lot in the end. Absolutely. The run rate was, but it's very difficult, as you would know, to Busters. It's very, very difficult when a team scored well over 220 to be able to gauge where they're meant to be batting early on, because you're up against it. The moment your run rate starts to slow or appear to be slow, you're in catch-up mode, aren't you? And it's very, very hard to play that way. Probably all the more reason, and I would argue they could have tried this. It would have been more riskier, perhaps by bidding with Stokes and Buttler early on and really going for it. They may have given a crack at this. They would have been a more commanding start, had those two open and got 100 partnership or something like that with Samson following. They would have been in the box seat then, because they would have got a great start. And I think a lot was put on Samson, and he did a fantastic job. He certainly deserved to be man of the match. Although, Tabastas, what do you think? Do you think that a player should be man of the match in a losing side? Do you honestly think that's the way it should be approached?
Obviously, he had been the most he had been the better batsman in both the sides. I'm not I'm not taking away anything from KL Rahul, but um, that this man of the matches doesn't matter. I mean, end of the day,
That's true.
End of the because there are so many sponsors involved, and it is the commentators who judge who they think the man of the match would be. But then in this case, I would say that it was fair enough to give the man of the match to Samson, irrespective that he ended up on the losing side. But then to me his knock was the best on show today. Keeping in mind the knocks from KL Rahul, Deepak Huda, Josh Buttler, Chris Gayle, everyone, and I think Samsung's knocks was just outstanding. It was a touch unlucky that he couldn't take the side home, but then he almost carried the bat with in his own.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to just dwell on a point that I think we've brought up here. The performance of Australian bowlers in the IPL so far, other than perhaps one exception, is definitely Pat Cummins and potentially Adam Zampa, because Adam Zampa hasn't played yet.
No, he hasn't played yet.
No, but both Pat Cummins and Adam Zampa, I grant they're bowlers that play well in the IPL, but at the moment, Australian bowling depths in this competition are nowhere near what they were. Nathan Coulson-Nile hasn't played yet, but I think he'd be below form. The likes of Jason Berendorf will probably show up to be someone worthwhile having. But Mitch Masters not here. You've got Mitchell Stark, you've got Hazelwood, even Nathan Lyon for that matter. There's a lot of players that play for Australia that are not here. I'm wondering whether the relationship to Australian bowlers in the IPL may be waning somewhat. I think the point was made by a few people online here that the reality is that I don't think that India should be concerned anymore. Indians' bowling depth is immense. We've seen today some very good young bowlers coming through. And I think the likes of Vijay, who talked with us earlier in another program, there's a lot of young bowling depth. Siraj, with Shami returning now, of course, Yadav. There's a whole plethora of bowlers that are playing well in India. India now need to look within for their bowling talents more than outside. There's emphasis by Chris Morris and his relationship. They've perhaps slightly overrated him and they need him. But is it the case now that the South African bowlers are a different kettle of fish? Norgay and Rabada are certainly worth having here. The South African, we've seen the young fellow that we saw earlier in the tournament that you once saw in the nets. He bowled particularly well. I've forgotten his name offhand. The young fellow who
Marco Jansen.
He was certainly a great talent. But I don't think we can relate to it being as much. Kunal Sharma, I hope it's not the Kunal Sharma that I know. Your timing is so late. It may appear late, but it's actually relevant to a lot of audiences, not just India as well. We do have American audiences that are tuning in now. But I do take that point. Australian bowlers need slow bowlers, and smart bowling pace disappears on Indian pitches. That is also true there from Anand Ingle. The reality is that, yes, the change of pace is not that evident, I think. What do you think, Debashis?
I would totally agree you, because I think the biggest weapon harmony that a bowler can have in this format is the change of pace, especially the slower yorkers, the knuckle balls, and you need to have master this kind of deliveries if you want to be successful on conditions in India. And I think in that way the Indians definitely have the edge, especially the likes of Shardul Thakur or T Natarajan or Deepak Chahar. All these bowlers, they are just master of these variations. And Bhuvneshwar Kumar, I missed. He has been a master in his own right, especially with the knuckle ball and the slower yorkers, bowling at the death. I think, and another, I would like to add to the fact that another team that will gain from this IPL is England, because most of their bowlers are taking part in this IPL. Obviously, we assume that Jofra Archer will also be playing in next after 5-6 matches once it gets fit. So I think that just stands them in good state, because they will have a first round assessment how the wicket's going to behave, how the conditions will be like when they come in to play the T20 World Cup. Not so the case with Australia, because all their premier fast bowlers are back home, and so I doubt how many of the bowlers that are playing in the IPL will make it to that T20 World Cup squad for Australia.
I agree. I can't see. I know it's early, but Meredith and maybe Richardson, maybe. But it's too early to tell on those players in this situation. Look, if they perform well throughout the tournament, they may have improved their stocks for Australia, perhaps. Look, I think there has been a renaissance with Indian cricket. We know that Indian national teams, whether it be in the T20 one day and long form, have become 2 and 3 teams worth of players. And the IPL has a lot to thank for that. It's been a great breeding ground, especially in the T20 format. I'm particularly impressed with some of the Indian bowlers I'm seeing. Shardul Thakur perhaps didn't bowl as well in his first match either, but we know how good he is, and that certainly has kept him in good stead. All goes well. This tournament, let's not forget, the IPL is the premier T20 tournament in the world. The best players play here, other than perhaps some of the Pakistani players. The best players are certainly here. And we should actually talk, we're not talking about it today, but there's been a match today between Pakistan and South Africa.
Who won?
It's not one. I think there was a match today. In fact, South Africa won, and they won
so
quite
that means
convincingly.
So that means I think their series is level 1-1 now.
Exactly. Pakistan were late for 140 for 9, and South Africa were fourth for 141, but after 14 overs. So they gave them a bit of a shellacking. But look, this is the beauty of T20 cricket. You could have a day where one team smacks the other and turns it around and plays. It is an on-the-day performance, and that is why a team like Delhi Capitals are going to do well, and Mumbai Indians, because of the way they perform on the day. They discount everything left or right, and it's the performance on the day when counts. And I think that can't be forgotten. I dare say that the two teams we see today will struggle to get these scorelines in their next match. Why? Because the bowling will be better. I think it's important to note that. I enjoy the encouragement that's been given to these two teams, but it is way too early to judge their true form. Now that we've seen all 8 sides play, my assessment hasn't changed. So I still believe it'll be the same top 4 to 5 teams. And Kolkata Knight Riders, the way they played their match was controlled. It was purposeful. They didn't bust a gut. They didn't go out of their way. They did what they had to do.
And there's a very important match coming up tomorrow with Knight Riders playing Mumbai Indians.
Oh yes.
I think that is going to be a blockbuster.
And the reality is the Mumbai Indians will then go 2 losses in a row if they lose that match.
Yeah.
I think that I know that Mumbai Indians have lost 5 in a row and still won that competition. But I think this year the levels raised the bar somewhat with a lot of the sides. That they're generally well balanced, and Mumbai Indians need to get some wins on the board. And a KKR match will be pretty crucial, in fact, for both. I think it's going to get more and more intriguing. This competition will get better and better as time goes on. I think we're in for a blockbuster because we've had a damn good start to the first 4. So most centuries in IPL, there's 6 tons with Gayle, Kohli, Warner, Watson, AB de Villiers, and Samson. So Samson's now got 3. I would argue that Samson's... What do you think about Samson's performance today, Tavashes? Do you think... I know it's the first game, but the way he handled himself today under fairly difficult conditions as captain was very commendable.
I think he kept it very simple. He was playing his natural game, which is, I think, his biggest strong point is his stroke play. He is a stroke player in his own right, and he looked really calm and composed. I think there was he was not rushing on his shot. Rather, he was just waiting for the bad balls to be dispatched into the stands, which he did, and he was judging the ball to its merit. Means if there is a ball to be hit, he was hitting them, and he looked very calm, and that is something that augurs well for the Rajasthan Royals side, because it was his first match as a captain, so that early nerves as a captain, because too much of pressure. When you are captaining in an IPL side, there's too much pressure from the franchisee, because people watching, the selectors, the fans, the broadcast, the coverage that you get from an IPL match, it's immense. The pressure is immense, and they were under a spot, losing a few wickets. Then to go out there and play the innings that he did today, I think it speaks volumes of his character and his mental strength. And I think he would do a decent job in the role as a captain for Rajasthan Royals this season.
Yes, I was certainly more impressed with Samson than I was probably downplaying somewhat after the discussions we had with Nikhil Nas about the captaincy of Samson. I was concerned, and unlike Shreyas Iyer, if he was captain of Delhi Capital, there was a concern. But Samson stood up today, leading by example, and that's probably the key to him. But that's going to create a lot of pressure on Samson through the entire tournament. He cannot continue to score centuries every single match. And let's be honest, if he didn't score a century today, the team would have been in deep trouble. I think if you look at Manan Vora and Ben Stokes, although Manan Vora hit a 406 and looked like he was starting off with a bang, got out very cheaply. There's a lot to be done to this Rajasthan Royals side before they get their act together. They can't rely on Samson as much as they did. So there's been some discussion from Engel about Manish Pandey. What do you think of Manish Pandey in general?
I think he batted well yesterday. He did look good for his half century, but then he needs to be consistent. That has been one biggest criticism against him is his inconsistency, because invariably you would see him playing a great knock, but then the next day you would see him playing a rash shot and getting out, and that has been the biggest criticism leveled against him is his inconsistency. I think if he can bring that consistency into his game, I think that would hold him in good state, because with the T20 World Cup, with a bigger squad, I think the spotlight will be definitely will be on Manish Pandey, along with a few others. So I think he needs to be consistent, and that is what has been the biggest criticism against him.
It's amazing. Some of the fans that are on the line here wanted to know where the IPL was being shown in Australia. Clearly, Foxtel and KO, which is an affiliate of Foxtel, but they're talking about Sky Sports in England. It is true. One thing which is true: IPL is normally shown on cable television on pay to view. None of it's free to air. In the case of in India, what is the story with the broadcasters in India for IPL?
Yeah, it's been televised on Star Sports. I think it is. We do have to pay to watch the matches, but then you can also watch it on Hotstar on your mobile platform. And the good thing about IPL is that we saw that almost towards the fag end of the match today, there was almost 76 lakh people watching the match. Means that is amazing numbers. Means that shows the popularity of IPL.
In particular, when there's a good game on. In particular, let's be honest.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, these two sides, Punjab and Rajasthan Royals, are deemed to be underdogs. There was a lot of interest as to how the new players would perform, and that was evidenced by that way. So, Kanav Bali is saying a run of ball innings is of no use in T20 cricket. Manish Pandey made the mistake the other day, and Asam and his performance did it today in the game against South Africa. It is true. A run of ball performance is no longer doesn't cut it, does it? Perhaps when the team is in difficulty, they need to solidify their innings. But generally, you're needing strike rates of 130, 40 plus, and in some cases, really up towards 200 to be a winner. So, Gareth Banker also said, Bazar Azam is a stat pattern. Now, the reality is that the game between South Africa and Pakistan is crucial, because we mustn't forget there is a World Cup T20 tournament occurring later this year. Devash, is that your thoughts as well? The reality is that we have to look at all the sides that are playing at the moment around the world, because we have a significant tournament that's going to be following later on in the year regarding the T20 World Cup. And some of the sides that don't entertain players here, for example, the South African team, it must be depleted, especially from a bowling perspective, because most of the bowlers are here. And the reality is that they're still winning, so you've got to take your help for South Africa, that's for sure. Ashok Tatani says, I would like to know what Debash's Sen thinks of Chetan Sakari.
I think that's a very, very inspiring story, Norman. I think your viewers would like to hear about Chetan Sakaria. Obviously, he's a 23-year-old kid from Saurashtra. Actually, he comes from this place called Wankhede, which is almost 180 kilometers from Rajkot. And he actually, it was until 16 years old when he had a proper coaching, because he used to play tennis ball cricket, and his rise to stardom, he played the first class cricket only from 2018-19 onwards, and he was part of the Ranji Trophy winning squad of Saurashtra, which defeated Bengal in the final. And another thing is that the spotters of Mumbai Indians and Rajasthan Royals were after him. He was spotted by both this franchisee, but it was eventually Rajasthan Royals who brought him for 1.2 crores. So, but then there's a sad side to it as well, because Chetan Sakaria, he's because his father used to run a tempo business, which he had to shut down because he was not well. Then his uncle actually came forward, and Chetan Sakaria happens to be only the earning member of the family, and then to get a price tag of 1.2 crore, that speaks volume. This is what is IPL is all about. Means this is such an
Lovely stuff.
inspiring story. Means a small boy, a poor chap coming from a small village where you don't know, because many people would not know where Vartage is, but then from there to be playing in the IPL, and it's a hugely inspiring story for me at least.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the romance of these stories. Kunal Sharma now, I know Kunal Sharma very well. I hope it's not this Kunal Sharma that I know, but he's asking me, Norman, your pick between Virat Kohli and Smith in Tests. Well, clearly, at the moment, Virat would have to be the person I would always talk highly of. Steve Smith has had a rather interesting career of late. There's a lot of issues around it. They're even talking about him returning as captain. Maybe that might be the making of Steve Smith to come back as captain. I don't know. But I think that Virat Kohli is streets ahead at the moment. Steve Smith should be up there, but Steve Smith hasn't been able to play. He's not being picked in his current team for the Delhi Capitals. Of course, it's only first game, and even there from a home basis, they didn't get much of a chance to play post the Indian series. Okay. Kanav Bali, I think, has got a very good point here, Debashes. He's saying South Africa needs to sit down with AB de Villiers and have a talk with him regarding the upcoming T20 World Cup. They need him. He has a lot of cricket left in him. I don't know about you, but I'm just trying to recollect. I think he's been asked this question time and time again, and he just pushes away that discussion. But I reckon there will be discussions between South Africa and AB de Villiers. And if he has a tournament that we're expecting to have with RCB, I think you'll find that that could be knocking on his door. Back to our RCB for a minute, Debashes. You and I talked earlier about the top four sides. We didn't include RCB in those top four sides. That's remiss of me somewhat. I think that I'm still going to talk about top five teams, and I do think Delhi Capitals, Mumbai Indians, KKR, and Sunrisers Hyderabad.
I would say definitely Mumbai Indians and Delhi Capitals are almost a certainty, and the other two teams will be between these three teams: Sunrisers Hyderabad, KKR, and RCB. Means it was so close last time round, because KKR and Sunrisers Hyderabad, it was a difference of only 8 runs that KKR failed to make it to the playoffs, Sunrisers qualifying. So I think this might be a similar situation wherein net run rate will be very important towards the end. And I think these three teams with RCB, Sunrisers Hyderabad, and Kolkata Knight Riders, among these three teams, two will be making it to the playoffs along with Delhi Capitals and Mumbai Indians. I don't actually.
Absolutely.
If you say three teams that don't look like after the first round of matches, is that Chennai Super Kings. They have been um, far from impressive. Then you have obviously these two teams, Punjab Kings and Rajasthan Royals. I think where they will miss out is that when you compare it with other teams, is their bowling. The biggest weak link of both these sides is their bowling. I think that is where what will count. Obviously, Rajasthan Royals have a Jofra Archer, but then he will only be available after 5 or 6 matches.
Absolutely. I'm going to be very strong on my commentary here. Both Morris today, Meredith, and Jai Richardson will actually suffer. They won't perform up to what's expected. If they do, I'd be really shocked. I'd be commending them. I'll be very happy if they do, but I seriously don't think they will. I think the one player out of today's performances, which I believe will be important and will perform, is Shami. I think Shami is. I'm so impressed. I'm so happy, because I had concerns about this arm injury would affect him long term, but he seems to have taken particular care of his fitness, and he looks particularly good. And the term rusty has been used. You can't use that for Shami. You cannot use the word rusty for Shami. He impressed me today. I didn't expect him to go that well today. I would have understood if he didn't do well today.
No, but he had been sharing he had been uploading the videos of his practice sessions that he had in the National Cricket Academy, and he is one cricketer who has his own cricket infrastructure at his home in Moradabad, the place where he hails from. He has a backyard. He has converted that backyard into a special training ground for him. He has a wicket there. He bowls there time and again whenever he is at home. He's relaxing, so he doesn't have an off time. Either he's at the gym working on his fitness, or he's bowling at the net. So I think he's a very honest cricketer. He's a very serious cricketer, and I think and the results are showing it doesn't look rusty, to say the least. Obviously, in a format like IPL, you might go in for runs, but I think he was the standout bowler for Punjab Kings today, because after coming after such a long layoff, and to performing the way he did, it's outstanding.
Absolutely. I'm particularly happy for him. I like the guy a lot, and I love his bowling, and I think he's an essential part of both the IPL and the Indian makeup. Along with bowlers like Siraj, Umesh Yadav has not bowled yet in any.
No, he was.
No.
He did not play in the first match. He did both. Umesh
No.
Yadav and Ishant Sharma was not included in the playing 11. But then, Umesh Yadav normally he doesn't. He is not in the mix of things as far as the T20 format is concerned. I think it is more like Mohammad Siraj and Natarajan, Bhuvneshwar. Bhuvneshwar Kumar is fit now, so and he did play that England T20 series. So Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Natarajan, Siraj, Navdeep Saini, Mohammad Shami, Bumrah, Hardik Pandya, Deepak Chahar. So these are the bowlers. Shardul Thakur, you cannot forget Shardul Thakur as well. So these are the bowlers. I think it will be between them that will make it to the T20 World Cup squad.
Debashis, you are wonderful. You are wonderful. Your analysis is brilliant, and I must thank you. Both Debashis and I have had very long nights for a lot of reasons, and Debashis is fresh as a daisy, and I'm commending you greatly. I think a lot of you. I'm sorry, viewers. I'm taking a moment here to fall in love with Debashis again. I'm sorry about Debashis and I had a bit of a tiff, guys. You must know Debashis and I had a boyfriend tiff. We had a bit of a discussion, but he and I are friends for life. And if he was here right now, I'd kiss him. But not in the way you guys think, just as a friend. Please don't forget that, okay? Kunal Sharma, if that's the real Kunal Sharma, Sharma is upper hand caste in India. I know that. In fact, Kunal Sharma, the name Sharma holds very high appeal. I love the name of Kunal Sharma because one of my best friends is called Kunal Sharma. Now, Ashok Datani is right, and I'm going to repeat this. The amount of talent in India is enormous. Indian teams have to start to realise that and stop picking international players only on occasions. I'm not saying they're doing that exclusively, but I think some of their Indian bowlers need to be given more of a chance to be the player they rely on and to give emphasis and to give credit to. Bastards, do you think that? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
I totally agree. I totally agree with him because you see the likes of Avesh Khan or a Chetan Sakaria today, the way he bowled, Arshdeep Singh. See, you need to give more opportunity to the Indian bowlers. And the Rajasthan Royals have two bowlers in the likes of Kartik Tyagi and Jaydev Unadkar. Obviously, Kartik Tyagi. I think it might be an injury that has influenced the management to leave him out. But then you need to give opportunities to the young Indian bowlers, young Indian fast bowlers. I think they has it in him to show their skill in a platform like the IPL. And you could see the likes of Avesh Khan getting rid of Faf du Plessis and Mahendra Singh Dhoni in the first match. Then today you saw how well Chetan Sakaria bowled, picking those 3 wickets and also Arshdeep Singh. He has been a revelation for Kings 11 Punjab, now Punjab Kings. So the more you give these young Indian bowlers the opportunity, the better for India.
Absolutely. And I want to make this very clear to any of the viewers that have an influence on local cricket in India, which I'm sure many of you do. Do not discount the local factor here. I believe in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see, I'm by no means comparing Indian bowling to the West Indies greats of yesteryear,
No
but
way, no way.
no way. But there's no reason why they can't attain that desire to be at that level. More players from the Punjab region, because I think as not unlike the Pakistan teams that are out there recently, they unearth a lot of champion bowlers. The Punjab region is a key area for fast bowlers. Would you agree, Jabashis?
Absolutely, I would agree because the conditions there is favorable. But then now in India, you have almost bowlers, fast bowlers coming in from all the regions. I am talking about
True.
especially the smaller states, smaller cities, in the likes of Mohammad Siraj or T. Natarajan. The biggest example that we have is Natarajan.
Exactly.
He
Exactly.
comes from a place called Salem, which is the innermost parts of Tamil Nadu. Means and to come from a place like Salem to be in the Indian side, and it does shows that India has a lot of talent. Means and the biggest thing is that the likes of Navdeep Saini, he was brought in by Gautam Gambhir in the Delhi Ranji Trophy side, so and likes of Mohammad Siraj, he comes from a smaller town. So I think this shows that the smaller states, not only Punjab, I think the fast bowlers are evolving from uh, all parts of the country. Means I especially the smaller states.
Yep. Kunal Sharma is saying, "What's your prediction in this ASES series? What does ASES stand for? Am I not getting that? Is he talking about the Ashes? My God! Now it's a typo. The Ashes series in Australia. I put a joking little skit out about a cockatoo laughing his head off and me laughing my head off and saying, England win the Ashes. I'm afraid I shouldn't be laughing too much because England, if they hold their side together, will give Australia an almighty shake. If Australia over-rely on the likes of Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins and Lyon, they're going to be in for a bit of a shock. I think that England have the measure of the fast bowling a lot more these days. The fear factor that India has broken through is clearly evident even with England. Australia need to rethink their bowling lineup somewhat at home. They've got great bowlers, I'm not saying they haven't, but the reliance on them to blast teams out may not be so evident. England is certainly going to be in for a decent performance in the Ashes series coming up end of this year. My God, we've got a lot of cricket to basters. We've got some 50-odd games of IPL still to go, which is daunting in itself. Then a World Test Championship. Then a series with England and India. Then you got the damn World Cup still. Then you got an Ashes series. Are we going to get any sleep? Are you going to promise me any sleep?
It is very hectic as is might be the case now. It's 1:24 a.m. and I'm speaking with you, discussing cricket, discussing IPL. So this is all we have to live on, because end of the day, we are just, I mean, we are just passionate about the game, both you and me, and we just love cricket, and that's the reason I am on your platform, talking about cricket, because we just love the game.
You know what time it is in Australia right now? You complain about 124. It's
It is 5
five.
a.m. 5,
No, it's 5:55 a.m.
almost 6 a.m.
Yeah, but who talks about cricket at 5:58, 5 a.m.? Norman does. And the Busters at 124. It's crazy. And okay, we're getting told everybody else it's 9 p.m. in the UK. Well, then you should be watching cricket. 9 p.m. in the UK, you should be up and having your coffee and having a great night and having a glass of red wine with you. But I think that we shouldn't be. Okay, Kunal Sharma. I want the Kunal Sharma to reveal himself. I think Smith is a big factor for the Ashes series. I think Smith will be the only factor that'll be significant. He and perhaps Labuschagne and maybe a few other others will be the ones that'll be determining our series. Whether I would like people's opinion whether Steve Smith should be given the captaincy of Australia. Steve Smith thinks so. he goes out on the back page of our paper saying that I'm pledging captaincy. Big mistake. I thought, let the selectors do that. But Justin Langer made it very clear that, no, we don't need him, thank you very much. That's creating battle lines right there. When the coach is saying to potential captain or one of their best players, we don't need you as a captain, that's firing words. Ashok Dunsi says the IPL has started with a bang. I agree. Certainly 3 of the 4 matches have been riveting. One match was a little bit disappointing, but generally they've been enormous. And I hope Punjab Kings and Rajasthan Royals go well. I hope they do. I'm saying they won't, but they'll be better for it next season. If they don't perform well this season, they're going to be a lot better for it. My prediction is Punjab Kings win next season. I think if they keep their lineup together,
but then they won't be able to keep their lineup because it will be 2 more teams added to the IPL, and it will be most of the teams. It will be a full-on auction. So you never know. They might come up with a very strong squad. So to some extent, you are right. I mean, they might build up a very strong squad and can win the first IPL, but definitely not this season. I don't see them winning the championship.
I predict if the Punjab Kings listen or take notice of the words that you and I are talking about today, start looking local. Go out there and do what I'll give a good example. In the Lahore Qalandars, I'm not sure whether you know this story. They went out to a stadium in their so-called Punjab area, empty, and they said they social media everybody in the local area. Said anyone that can play cricket, anyone of any young age, bring yourself down on this day. And they came out of the woodwork, and they had an entry. One stadium door had batters. One stadium entry had bowlers. One had all-rounders. One had keepers, fielders, whatever it was. They came in various doors. Some of them had never had a red ball in their hands in their life, the Bashas. They had tape balls. They didn't even have proper shoes. And out of that, they unearthed Harish Ralph. A whole truckload of players came out of that are now in the mix for their both state and national sides. I know it sounds very raw, but wouldn't that be exciting? The Bashas, maybe you and I should go and hire out a stadium in northern India and social media ourselves crazily and say, anyone that's anyone, turn up. I don't care whether you've got good shoes on or not. I don't care whether you've got the right clothes or not, whether you've ever had a red ball in your hands. Come down. And you and I could have the conduit to many teams to bring out unearthing champions. What do you think of that? Do you like that idea?
Absolutely. And for that, BCCI is definitely there to help out unearth the talents in India. But as far as the shoes are concerned, I would like to add to that Chetan Sakaria story. He didn't have proper shoes when he first burst into the scene. He was given his first pair of shoes by his senior, Sheldon Jackson. Sheldon Jackson actually gave him his pair of shoes for him to wear. So that is what is the success is all about. Means these cricketers they struggle to make a living of themselves during the early days, coming from poor backgrounds. Means, but then when they end up earning so much, playing in the IPL, that is the real success of IPL, and that is what to me is is a true inspiration.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the story of, I think it's Siraj's father, Nalarajan's father, Tiagi's parents, I think it is. There's a number of players that are having these stories. But that is why Indian cricket's going to only grow, not just based on the well-heeled cities of Mumbai and the like and Delhi. It's not going to rely on those alone. They need to unearth players like this. That's the future. Not unlike Sri Lanka with Malinga and even Murali. These players came out of the woodwork as well. They went looking. I'm not saying India are not going looking, but they shouldn't forget that. They should not forget that. Our good friend Jeff Thompson, also the likes of even our friends at the bowling strength, Glenn McGrath, they're out there in India creating a lot of bowling camps at the moment, particularly for fast bowlers. Which is intriguing to me because even Alan Mullally's been offered to go to the Punjab region and he wants me to come along with him. And I'm tempted to do that. And if I do, Debashis, I'm expecting you to come along and we'll fund that whole process. We'd love you to come along. Wouldn't that be fun? It'd be a great experience.
Absolutely, it will be a great experience because especially to see this young talent. India does have the talent, because who knows, there are many Natarajans or the many Siraj or the many Sainis still, which they have been untapped, they have been unearthed. So maybe if we do it, if someone does a talent scout, we might see another bunch of fast bowlers coming up.
I think that needs to be done. Debashis, I'm suggesting with Extra Time's platform and mine, we should do a collaboration, go out to the Punjab region and record our journey, our vlog of the people. I think we might make some history there, which would be great to do. All right, now, Sanju Samson's innings will be AB18. Sanju Samson's innings will be remembered for a long time, but he needs to be consistent. Absolutely. It's very true. It was a great century. I just hope it hasn't been wasted for the first match. I hope he doesn't lower his form throughout the series. I'd love to see him. He's going to have pressure on him, but I think Samson's the key to Rajasthan Royals. I didn't think that as much early on, but now I certainly think that. His performance is also a great story. Natarajan is a romantic story, as we've told already. That's a shock to answer, is correct. Conor Sharma says, Norman, your favourite test and 20. Over. My favourite test really was the last test against in the Gabba at the moment. The way that the Indian players performed, it's well documented. Is there going to be a series on that coming up? I wonder. There'll have to be a documentary on that.
Absolutely. I think there should be a documentary on that series win against Australia by India. I think 2018. I think 2000. The recent series was even more it will be even more remembered due to the sheer fact is that so many players missing out, and then 1-0 down, 46 or 36 all out, and to bounce back the way they did, winning test matches. I think there needs to be a documentary on this great series win.
Absolutely. As a suggestion to Extra Time, you've already covered large aspects of it. I would implore you an Extra Time to actually do that. I think that would be something that I would love to be able to consider with you. We need to think about that. Not that you haven't thought about it already. An actual series on that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I get a smile from you, devices? I know it's late. Can I get a smile?
Yeah, Norman, if you don't mind, if you can please excuse me. It's almost, we have been chatting for almost 52 minutes. So
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you came along.
Definitely, I will be always honored to be on your platform any day you call me.
I will never disappoint you on your platform either. Look at me in the face. We've been texting each other. Do you forgive me?
100%. We get along very.
I don't want 100%. I want 200%.
200% means we get along very well, and that's a bit of means we go at each other when it's all about
yeah. Brothers. I can tell you anything. I mean,
absolutely.
I want you to take your hat off. I want the people to see how beautiful you are.
I'm not. No? I'm not.
I'm not. Yeah.
On that note, can I take a leave now?
You're feeling threatened. I tell you.
Maybe once we leave the studio, I will take off my hat.
Oh, okay, Devash. Big kiss to you. Thank you for your efforts. I'll be with you in a matter of hours again with the pre-show and post-show and Extra Time. And all my viewers, we mustn't forget that the Extra Time program, both pre and post-show, is stupendous. The guests that Debashis has compiled, he's had Brad Hogg, Nikhil Nas from ESPN, he's had Deep Disculpa from Star Sports, he's had some of the most dignified senior journalists. I don't think I called him Viraj. You notice when I called Vijay Viraj? He didn't answer.
Yeah.
It's like me saying Steve or hello, John.
It was awesome to see you just getting the Indian names so accurate. Means in most cases, I would say that you were getting it spot on.
Absolutely.
And And I would say that it was also great to have some these Bharat Army members. They are
Been
so
fantastic.
knowledgeable. They are so knowledgeable.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
They
they are just
really are.
yeah.
And I like the ones in particular that are supporting their own team on the day. That's
Yes.
Barrett Army. Barrett Army, I give you complete credit. You're a professional group. You have an amazing army basis. No one should. Why don't we just have one Barrett Army? Forget all these other fans groups. All join into one because you are one team. India. You're not. You're not several fan clubs. We should have one mega fan club. We literally do. I think that's a very significant point. All right, Debashis, I love you and leave you. I'm going to talk. I'm going to have a monologue here. I'm in a mood to chat, so I might chat a bit longer. But Debashis, thank you again.
All right.
I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Norman.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would be kissing your feet now. It's a long way down. It's a long way down for me to go to your feet, by the way. But that's another point. I may not be able to get back up, but that's nothing. All right. All right.
Thank you, Norman. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah.
Now, guys, I have a lot to reflect on here. I think we've got a decent audience. A lot of people from America. In fact, I want all the people who are in the fans today to now message me with where you're actually situated. What part of India? What part of America? Some are in Canada. Some are in Austria. Some are in Japan. Some are in Germany. Some are in obviously Australia, England. Some are even in places like Sri Lanka and South Africa. I want you all, everyone online now, I want you to tell me where you're from so I can mention your name. Slipknot 0010 is looking for Pretty. Pretty is actually not here because she's having a bit of a break. She's been working very hard with me for months now, and she deserves a bit of a break. Chris Vernon is out there coaching, but he'll be back. Don't worry, guys. These guys are back. Nobody can work every single day. It's an impossibility. We have to have breaks. I'm here, and I will always be here. So Kunal Sharma is watching in England. Milan is watching from Vienna, Austria. Amaresh Sirius is from Bangalore, India. Anuj Ingle, you're from Pune, must be past your bedtime. Hardik Palmer, you're from Leicester in UK. Wonderful. Carl Sharma is actually watching from Leeds. Very good. So isn't that impressive? People from all over the world. We've got Leeds in England, Pune in India, Leicester back in the UK. We've got Vienna, Austria, Milan. I want you to, Bangalore also, Amresh is from Bangalore in India. Himanshu Singh is in Mumbai. We've got so many people from different places. Milan from Vienna in Austria. What are you doing, Milan in Austria? Tell us. Send a message through. In fact, I'm tempted to give you guys permission to come on screen. We may do that in the near future as well. We need to bring some of the fans on screen, not unlike on the so-called extra time platform, which Tabasa Sen is one of the leaders of. He's one of the head sports editor for that specific aspect of extra time. And I believe that he's got a great platform, and I'm a part of it. I'm hosting his show, as you probably know, trying to do both at the same time, which is always difficult. But they have a great depth of contact with senior editors. I do think that it'll be a very important situation that we do go on the extra time platform as well. Be aware of that. They use the Bharat Army exclusively. Have I got the Norman Army? Or maybe I've got the Norman Army. We should perhaps set up a group called the Norman Army. That'd be a bit of fun. So Hardik Palmer, okay, tell me who thinks they're up to speaking on air with me. Who would you like? Is it Himanshu Singh, Ashok Dattani, or Hardik Palmer, or Milan? Which one of you guys would like to come on air with me now? Because I'm happy to send you the link. If you give me your email address, I will send you the link to today's meeting. We can have you join me because I'm in no mood to go anywhere. I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning here in Australia. I'm very much up. If you'd like to join me, let me know and I'll get you on air. Milana's been there for 18 years now. I came from Kerala to Vienna when I was 5 years old, and I'm currently settled there. My first language is German, so my English is not that good. Isn't that funny, Milan? Wir können ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen, Milan. Das ist ganz in Ordnung. Ich habe 4,5 Jahre in München gelebt. Well, I just said to Milan, my German is perfect. This is fließend Deutsch. This is perfect German. Milan, I lived in München for almost 5 years, and my German is there. So Milan, you can message me in German if you like. Ganz gut. All right. Kunal Sharma's asking me, am I coming to England this year? I want to be in India now, desperately to be there for the IPL, but no media is allowed to enter the venues. There's no point. Also, the sheer access to India is limited. I would like to be there in England for the World Test Series. It all depends on visas and the ease of travel. I'll be there when I possibly can, there's no doubt. Ashok Mobiles, Norman's using a mobile. Yeah, I'm using my mobile. I've got a mobile platform. What you see here is an iPhone. I don't need an elaborate camera. It's working very good. So I've got Milan now messaging me, sehr gutes Deutsch, good Genacht, Mr. Norman Kochner. Good Nacht? No, good Genacht. Okay. I would come live with you now, but going to sleep soon, tired, so you can get me next time. Sorry, that's fine, Arctic. That's okay. So Army Gur, okay, Himanshu Singh, come for the India World Test in England. I want to. If Ashok Dante, if we all come to England, we're going to all go to meet in the pub in London. We're definitely going to meet from pub in London. Not only have I got a subscription base, I've got a membership base. We haven't had much to offer the members at the moment because we can't get together. But I'm telling you right now, I would like the opportunity to bring the members together and get them into a pub or a restaurant, meet a lot of the ex-cricketers, you like the likes of Monty Panesar, your Adam Hollyoak, Jeff Thompson. There's a whole host of players I'd like to bring in there, so don't worry. So Ashok Dante, you'll work your video out and come live in the future. You got it. Just send me your email address and I'll send you the link and we'll get a bunch of you on there. I want my fans who are here dedicated to actually be able to be a part of the show in person and give you a bit of a chance to limelight. So Amarish Suresh, I'm certainly going to be meeting you in India. Once this damn COVID-19 disappears, which with vaccines out in the world now, we should be able to get closer and closer to, I'm going to meet you guys as much as possible. My life is dedicated to the fans that I have, the camaraderie of colleagues. Tobias and I are great friends. Yeah, we had a bit of an argument because we started our show late on extra time, but it wasn't late. It was actually in the correct timing of the match finish, but that's okay. Anuj Engel, you are now corona positive, but I don't feel perfectly energetic, not even a single medication required. Well, that's good. I'm glad. Being positive of coronavirus doesn't mean you're debilitated permanently. There are different levels, I must say. Kunal Sharma's asking my favorite cricket country to visit. There are two places in the world that I love visiting more than any other. Certainly Antigua and the West Indies, due to my great friend Mervyn Richards. Antigua has everybody there. It's got Viv, it's got Kirtley, it's got a whole range of people that live there. It's the most calmest place, and it's got cricket. Probably second would be, or equally first, would be India, and you name the spot, whether it's in Mumbai or in Delhi or up there in Amritsar with the Punjab region. I love it up there. I love Chennai, I love Kerala. Kolkata is probably my favorite because of the people that I know there. I have some great friends. But another country that I love to visit in terms of cricket certainly is Sri Lanka. Having taken 16 cricket tours, that's 16 tours into Sri Lanka, and been there many times myself beyond that due to my marriage to a Sri Lankan. I had a lot of great times there, and I must admit Sri Lanka is very dear to me. But I love Bangladesh. I love Pakistan. I love South Africa. I love New Zealand. There's not many countries I don't like. And obviously the pinnacle in terms of grounds, other than Eden Gardens and the SCG in Australia, is Lords. You can't beat that. I've had the privilege of playing at the Lords nursery ground at Duke and Norfolk's 11 at Arundel Castle. I've had the chance of playing at a number of grounds that were incredible. Lord Vestey's place, which is actually in England as well. Lord Vestey, a very famous man, and his ground, his own personal ground on his own estate, which I believe amazing, quite amazing. Kunal Sharma says Aussie versus West Indies series 1905 series. Do I remember? Of course I remember. I think there was any series with the West Indies, especially when it had the greats of Viv Richards, even though he wasn't there in 95, was certainly great. All right, guys. Any more questions? I would love to watch cricket in India either at Ahmedabad or Eden Gardens or Chennai. Ashok, Eden Gardens is certainly the pick in terms of the incredible statue that stands. Chennai is also beautiful. I've been very lucky. I spent some time in Janaka and a number of other people there as well, and enjoyed Chennai quite a bit. If you look at my YouTube page and you look at the so-called, the sections you have, like videos, playlists, membership, you also have one that's called community. Now, the community page, I post every day a number of times, both current information, some past information. I provide you with photos of some of the times I've been to places like India, and worth having a look. Final predictions for tomorrow. Norman, Mumbai a bit under pressure already. Yes, Kolkata Knight Riders look very measured about their first game. Mumbai Indians were a little bit under. I'm going to just, it really depends, but I think Kolkata Knight Riders. I actually think Kolkata Knight Riders might do Mumbai. Mumbai are traditionally slow starters, and it doesn't mean they're out of the contention of the top four by any means, but they are slow starters. I think Kolkata Knight Riders probably need to beat them to judge how well they're doing. I would say Kolkata. Okay, Ashok, you check the community page. All of you, go on the community page. I constantly post there. In fact, I'll post there right now if you like. I'll actually post something right now. I'll actually take a photo. See the camera here? I'm going to take a photo of this moment, and I'm going to just post this on my page. Okay, so Ashok, okay, normally if the Australian fast bowlers in Punjab could get their act together, then Punjab would be a formidable force. Absolutely, they could, but they won't. Why? Not that they're not good enough. They're just not ready. They need to have some games under their belt. They're going to have a relatively slow start of it. I think the pace will actually suit a lot of the batters out there, and I think that you'll find that there's a lot more learning to be done. Milan, Mr. Norman, I hope that your mother is doing fine now. I wish her in good health. Quite honestly, she is a lot better. By no means is she out of the woods at all. She's not. But I think that we'll need to. She needs to. Her age is a factor here, unfortunately. But she certainly is. It certainly is going to be a difficult time for her. She's only in the next room here now, and she's particularly. I think what's the word? She's particularly positive about her health, and you just don't know, unfortunately, how someone who's almost turning 90 will be. But thanks for asking, Milan. Sehr gute Frage. Very good question. So I'm actually posting on my community. You'll notice my community page there. If you look at the top there, you'll see playlist community. See the one where it says community? You go to community and you simply post it. And I'm going to be posting a photograph of what I've just taken now on there now. You'll see that as I'm happening. Dalton Alvula was a difficult game for Riley Meredith. It was. I think he's Riley Meredith. This is way underdone. I think he's not ready for this, but that's just my opinion. I would argue that he's overrated. I'm sorry. At this stage of his career, he's overrated. I think we've got a long way to go before we see him at his best, but I think he struggled. Engel here, speechless on my mother's health issue. Yeah, who wants to see your mother at any age failing her health? And you can see visibly when she lies in bed asleep, I wonder whether she's still breathing. I wonder whether she's not going to wake up. And that's my fear every single day, which is very sad. But I'm here with you guys. I'm resolute. Sometimes I might be a little bit late. It's probably based on the fact that I'm helping her. She might be getting out of bed. She might be moving to the toilet. She might have her walker that needs help. Sometimes I'm delayed by that, and that's a life reason, I'm sorry to say. Which dates are they announcing Australian Summer Contest? It can't be very far away. It probably will happen probably sometime in June, July. I would imagine, maybe August, but it's not very far away at all. And I appreciate all the commentary from people online about my mother. It's one of those things that none of us want to go through, and I know, and I'm very sincere when I say this, I know that a lot of people around the world, in particular places like India and Europe and America, are losing a lot of loved ones due to COVID-19. Australia is staggeringly lucky because we're actually in a situation here where we have had very little to do with COVID-19, only some rare cases. And now we're looking at a situation where there's no masks. We can go outside. We can spend time, doing things of that type. I think that a place like India, I know people personally, their mother and father have passed away. I know a young girl in Bali, in Indonesia, she's lost her mother, her father, and her brother and sister. Her entire family unit are gone, and she was left helpless. So it does make me emotional to think about that. And most of our viewers are actually quite young. They're in their 20s and 30s. So it's great to see people of that age interested in the channel, and I do applaud that. So Anuj Ingle wants to know how old everybody is here. Now, that's very personal, Anuj. Ingle, Ashok, I think a lot of people are in their 20s and 30s, to be honest. So Ashok Datani says, I have my second AstraZeneca injection today. Can I ask, I shouldn't be doing this. It's not a COVID-19 discussion, but who's had their jabs? Who hasn't? Does anyone feel that they are better protected because of it? Is it too early? Are the strands too virulent out there to know whether they're really covering it all? Ashok Dante, I'm 65, laugh a lot. Are you, Ashok? You don't look a day over 40. Anuj Engel, you're 24. Himanshu Sir Singh, sir, I would love to be on your stream one day. Would like to give a perspective of a 21-year-old middle-class family from India. Himanshu Singh, you got it. Send me your email address, and Himanshu, you're going to come on, okay? I would like to talk to you on air, please. Slipknot wants to know whether Brian Lara or Sachin Tendulkar is the best batsman, in my opinion. I would argue Viv Richards is. I would argue Sir Donald Bradman is. Sachin Tendulkar's record defies anyone to say that he's one of the best in the world ever. He certainly is up in the top handful of players. So is Brian Lara. But who's the best between the two? Split hair. I would argue they're both equally as good, with Sachin probably being slightly more ahead. But Brian Lara, some of his innings certainly were not matched by the 270 odd in Australia that Brian Lara scored. I think nothing was ever better than that performance, I'll tell you now. Gautam Avola, Jai Richardson struggled too in the first 2 overs, but then it's all about adapting good lines. I mean, you just feel sorry for the bowlers. I don't feel sorry for them at all. It's not a matter of feeling sorry for them. They're getting paid multi-million-dollar wage. The pressure's on them, but they need to embrace that and think, I'm getting paid this money for a reason. Let me show it. Ashok Dante says, I have seen Garfield, Summers, Viv Richards and Tendulkar. You've seen them play. Amazing. I certainly have seen Viv Richards play and Tendulkar. Sir Garfield Sobers, unfortunately, I didn't see him play, but I have met the man. He's an amazing person. He's got this aura around his head that I don't think many people could ever have. The man is really the best, the auras of a player in the world. Definitely Sir Donald Bradman. I would argue Neil Harvey, who I know personally who's still alive, is another. You'd have to include Tendulkar in that. Brian Lara, and the aura of a Viv Richards, Garfield Sobers, Evan Wes Hall, Curly Ambrose. It's number of the West Indies and there's aura. Absolutely. My favourite bowler ever, I'd say Jeff Thompson. I just love Jeff Thompson's personality. He's a go-getter attitude. He's still very fit despite being in his 70s now. Yes, Tendulkar's stroke play was awesome. Yes. But he's one of many. He wasn't the only player. And look at India. You had Gavaskar. You had Vivius Laxman, Ganguly. I think Sehwag I mentioned as well. Amazing players. Kunal Shah wants my thoughts on Wasim Akram. Probably the best exponent of swing bowling in the world ever. The best exponent of reverse swing. The best exponent of an old ball. An extremely clever bowler. He probably, in some cases, outthought players too much, and they ended up not knowing what was going on, and then if they survived, that great ball was wasted. So, yes, I would argue that's the case. Let's just have a look at a few things. I'm just looking at some interesting stats that I have about this whole tournament. Punjab Kings and Rajasthan Royals at this point are not expected to be in the top 5 teams. But they will shock a few teams, but their batting is their strength, their bowling is not their strength. I think they'll be found out by the Delhi Capitals, Mumbai Indians, KKR, certainly, and obviously RCB. I would love to see Kohli. Kohli, to me, that's one of the comments I think Ashok Dutta, he is an inspiration. The man has time for you. He stops and talks to you. He's not, people often say that Virat Kohli is arrogant. He's very confident. He's very cocky. He's very determined. He's very Australian-like when it comes to that cockiness, but an amazing man at heart. He has time for those that are fans. He has time for his wife. He, as you know, went home for the birth of his first child, despite having a test series in Australia to be involved with. He left the team after the first test. Very commendable. Very, very commendable. Himanshu Singh, what is my favourite team in the IPL? In the IPL, my so-called favourite team is KKR, Kolkata Knight Riders. But the team that I think will win it, my gut feeling is telling me Delhi Capitals. They've hit a crescendo. They've got Ricky Ponting at the helm. They've got a great structure around them. I would argue that. Kunal Sharma wants to know about Wakar Younis. Same breath as Wasim Akram. Both great bowlers. In fact, Wakar Younis lives in Australia, about maybe 3/4 of an hour away from me. And not any concerns that Kohli did not score 100 in international cricket in over a year. No. He scored so many when he has. He's well on track to be the most prolific scorer of centuries in all formats ever. With Tendulkar's got about 100. I would argue that with Kohli on 70, the next 30 will come, and it'll come very strong, and he'll probably go past 100. It'll be the leading all platforms century scorer. Ashok Dutta, he says, when Tendulkar or Vivacic play, the whole stadium goes quiet and watches their talent, or they get everyone into a spell. There's no doubt about that at all. In particular, Vivacic for me had the way that he strutted to the wicket, no helmet, chewing gum in his mouth, sometimes spits the chewing gum out, and he thought, I own this place. And he actually said the way he played was as if he owned the place. And I'll tell you what, he did. He owned it big time. He owned it amazingly. He was an amazing player. A lot of time for him. I think that there's a lot to be said about the whole way that man played. It was tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. Norman, your thoughts on Kunal Sharma? Kunal Sharma asked a lot of questions, but the real, and I'm not saying Kunal Sharma was not real, but the Kunal Sharma that I know, who has owned the Spartan Sporting Goods Company for a number of years, has gone through some ups and downs. He currently has Dave Warner as a player. You've seen Dave Warner's cricket bat, has the Spartan logo on it. He still has a relationship to Chris Gayle, with Kevin Peterson. I think Owen Morgan has something to do with him still as well. There's a number of players that really revere the bats that are created by Spartan. I have a man here called Kamal Khan, who's a Pakistani guy who's running the Australian end of it at the moment with Kunal Sharma, I think in England or UAE and India, depending on what time of the day. He's travelling a lot. The quality of Spartan equipment, regardless of the state of the company and where they're at, the quality of the ping in the bats from Kunal Sharma's bats, the Spartan bats, is beyond reproach. There isn't a bat company that makes a better bat. The sheer way they put their wood together, and their gloves, their pads, their kits are amazing. See Viv's voice, though, he could easily overtake Morgan Freeman. Yes, Viv Richards, when he talks, you listen. You listen to his brother, Mervyn Richards. Mervyn Richards has been on the show. He's a personal friend of mine. I was on a broadcast to the Antigua Parish League, which is a discussion group coming out of Antigua. They had Viv as a guest, and Merv was there. I was on that with pretty good parlour. Best wicket batsman ever is certainly Adam Gilchrist. There's no doubt about that. Adam Gilchrist is number one. But I'll tell you what, Rishabh Pant, again, you've got Adam Gilchrist, but Rishabh Pant's not the new Adam Gilchrist. He's the first Rishabh Pant. You could argue that Rishabh Pant has a bit of Adam Gilchrist in him, a bit of Dhoni mixed in. Yes, Ashok Dutta has the answer there. Delhi has the trump card, and that is Ricky Ponting. What a mentor, what a inspiring player he was as a coach. He says, don't think about anything else. Don't care about who's in or out, who's injured or not injured. Stay focused in the moment. What's happening at the moment in that match? What's in front of you? Catching the ball in front of you, playing the ball in front of you, looking at the score in front of you. bat appropriately. Why is the documentary Fire in Babylon criticised by some of the Caribbean Norman? It tries to depict West Indies as being brash and hard and ruthless. Well, they were. And I think no one should be considering it to be criticised. It was actually the Fire in Babylon was an amazing series. It probably highlighted injury a lot, which we're really into not showing these days, but I think that's not the problem. Guys, you know what I'm going to try and do? I've got a little window here. I'm going to show you outside. The sun's coming up, but more importantly, if I'm not wrong, we have a family of kookaburras. A kookaburra is the laughing bird. We'll have a look at it. Do you think Rishabh Pant is slightly overrated? No, I don't think he's overrated at all. He's that good so early, he's only going to get better. My view of the India versus Australia series 2014, I only want to look at the 2018 series and 2020 series, 2021 series. I think they are the ones which are worth. This is where India have come of age of late, where they actually, the fear factor's gone. How would Joel Garner fit in modern day cricket? He would be scary no matter whether he's here now, the past, in the future. A man well over 7 foot tall coming in to bowl to you would scare anybody. If he gets angry. Okay, we can have a little bit of a look here, guys. I'm just going to bring you over to the window. I wonder if we can see. You probably can't see exactly, but there is a lovely aspect there. You can see with the sun. There in that tree there is some amazing birds. The kookaburra, the cockatoo, the parakeet, the lorikeet. They're all Australian birds. They're all very commonly there. You can even see behind me the Donald Bradman book and the Billings there. Okay, more questions. Sir, this is Himanshu Singh. Sir, did you see the new advertisement of Rahul Dravid? If not, please see it. It's a hot topic in India and England. He was so angry at the sight of him. I don't know. He was angry, yes. It was, and as what Coley had a good laugh at. I think it was more in jest. The reality is, there's no way that's the true character of Rahul Dravid. He is a very, very cool, calm, sophisticated gentleman. I would argue Rahul Dravid and Kumar Sangakkara are two of the most eloquently spoken people in the world of cricket, and they are people of great intelligence and are worth living to. There's a home tour of Norman Coast. That was not my home. There's only one room. I'm a coin collector and I have a few kookaburra coins. Well, there you go. I'm actually a banknote collector. I have banknotes from I have a banknote collection from every single country of the world, old and new. I have an amazingly significant banknote collection. I'm now realizing that I think it's probably getting past some people's bedtime. We might consider actually ending the conversation, guys. It's been fantastic talking to you yet again. I think it's very important that we keep this conversation going. The time slot suits some people, it doesn't suit others. But around this time, it brings into play America and England as well as India. So it's worth certainly continuing at this time slot. BD Traveller Rendezvous, picking up Mustafa instead of Andrew Tye was a big mistake. What's your observation about this and the Rajasthan Royals versus Punjab? Andrew Tye has proven to be a great death bowler. Absolutely. Mustafa Rahman, I think we've seen only a bit of him. I think you'll see a lot more of him in the future. So don't be discounting him at all. Andrew Tye is certainly one bowler we haven't talked about. A player that's proven to be a good bowler and should be in the mix. Nathan Coulson-Niles probably a little bit on the outer. He hasn't been playing well generally. I think he'll struggle to make the side. He may play well in India. We don't know. All right, guys. Any questions? I need questions to see whether people are interested for me to continue. Good night, Amrish Suresh. Good night. See you soon. Those from India, I have every right to think that they need to go to sleep. It's time for some people's bedtime there. If I was starting 1 hour earlier, well, the reason why I don't do that is because there are a lot of other platforms that are on at the same time. Your quick buzzers and the quick info and the quick everybody, they're all up at that time right after the game. And I don't necessarily think we should compete with the same time slot. We should have our own time slot where people choose to come or not and get used to that. Tomorrow's match, if I look at tomorrow's match between Kolkata Knight Riders and Mumbai Indians on the Chennai wicket, which will see the importance of spinners come into play there. I think Kolkata Mumbai will revise their team list. They'll actually consider having more more spin bowlers potentially on that Chennai pitch. That Chennai pitch is not a flat wicket like the Mumbai pitch. It has turn and some slowness to it, and the dew also is a factor there. So I would argue that we're going to have a lot more to see from that. Actually, it's going to be very significant indeed. Actually, a rather important match, Kolkata-Mumbai. If Kolkata Knight Riders are going to stamp themselves on this competition and have a great start, they've already had one great win, they'll need to take charge there, and I think they will. Mumbai Indians generally don't start well. They're at their weakest, so this is the opportunity for KKR to take charge and be able to really show their wares. I think that's what is important here. I really do. I think that's where you'll need to see that aspect of the tournament. So we have a fairly good live. It's now 6:36 here in Australia, and we're still going on this. Your view for the Pakistani 90 team? Well, again, Pakistan teams, if that was when an era when you had Wasim Akram and Imraka Yunus, you won it all. You had people like Imran Khan floating around, and later on, of course, you had players such as the magnificent Insamam Al Haq, who I've met. Milan, I thought you were going to be Mumbai versus KK, overall 27 matches, 21 times won by Mumbai. Now that's an interesting stat. That tells me that Mumbai should be favourites for this match. But I think this is a new year, new tournament. I would argue that Mumbai Indians may be a little bit underdone, and not Riders are a bit more calculating. It all depends whether the likes of Andre Russell play well on the day. And Owen Morgan obviously captaining as well. He needs to get his act together. Ashok Dante says, I think all the 8 IPL teams are good, and any one of them can beat another on any given day. Of course that's the case. I'm not doubting that for a minute. I have to agree with you on that stage, but I don't think, I think that's a fair point, but I think still champions will come to the surface. Cream will rise. Reasons of others podcast for his sleep cycle were normal. The truth is, it's not my sleep cycle because I don't sleep. Like, how could I sleep? I'm on all the time. I've got to watch the matches. I have a doze here and there. And Kunal was asking me again about other Pakistani series versus Australia at 94, Karachi Test. I'm not going to talk about that. That's a comment I won't bring up here. All right, guys. I think it's time that we consider, unless you can bring some good questions, I think it's time for me to go. I'm waiting for Mumbai Indians do not have a hunger this year. Ashok Dante, that's my word. The hunger of a side like Delhi Capitals, of RCB, of KKR and Sunrisers Hyderabad. They're the winning factors. I mean, Rajasthan Royals and Punjab Kings have got an element of hunger, but they haven't got the playing depth that are in form yet. Their bowling lineups are both lacking. Do a pre-match analysis, which will give you more followers. I have chosen to. I am on the Extra Time platform doing a substantial pre-match analysis. I should do the one as well for these. You're right. I may reinstigate that. Guys, I think it's a very good point. It's a matter of time. Okay. Himanshu Singh is saying goodbye. A very warm-hearted welcome to my mother. Thank you. Mumbai to start their engine late. My favourite World Cup year, I mean, I'm Australian. There's been plenty of Australian examples where there's been the win of 2011 for India was certainly up there. But obviously, Australia's been particularly strong over a number of series. Back in '75, it was a great initial start from the West Indies. And obviously, when Australia played, I think '99 was a great World Cup as well. Plenty of great World Cups. Let's hope the next one is good as well. That is the 50-over World Cup, the T20 World Cup, when the West Indies won. That was quite spectacular. And that's the thing about the T20 series. We shouldn't discount the West Indies and Pakistan for their ability to win in that tournament. All right, guys. I think it's time that I go. I think we've reached a successful talk. It's been wonderful seeing you guys. I particularly like the people that have joined us. Don't forget, send me your links if you want to be a part of the live show. Why do I wear caps? No reason. My hair's just a bit messy. That's why. That's why I wear a cap, because my hair's. I've got a full head of hair, but my hair's a bit messy. If my hair wasn't messy, I would not wear the cap. I can assure you. And after all, I'm wearing an MCC cap, Marleybone Cricket Club cap. All right, guys. Good night to you all. This is Norman Koshnick signing off from Eyes on Cricket. Please join me again for events during the IPL. I'll bring you plenty of discussions with the public as well, and newspaper talk as well. So this is Norman Koshnick here, signing off from Eyes on Cricket. Don't forget to view, like, and share the posts. I have an Instagram handle and also a Twitter handle at Norm Koch, and please engage me there as well. Good night to you all. Good night, Konosham. I'll answer your 99 World Cup questions at another time. This is Norman Koshnick here for Eyes on Cricket with Norman Koshnick. Have a great day, guys.